So the meeting is being recorded for recording purposes. So welcome to our second topic. The first topic that we started with was the risk and return. Now we are going to talk about the cost of capital and the capital structure as our second topic. So we shall start by defining what is cost of capital. So we shall start by defining what is cost of capital. Cost of capital. Now, cost of capital can be defined in two perspectives. One perspective, it is the business perspective, and the other perspective is the perspective of the owner. Now, if you decide to define cost of capital under the perspective of the business, then it means that the cost of capital refers to the cost incurred by the organization in order to acquire funds for operation. Now, if you decide to define cost of capital under owner's perspective, then you shall say this is the rate of return which is attributable to the providers of capital. So let's start with the first one, business perspective. So let's start defining this one under business perspective. So cost of capital under business perspective, under business perspective. Under business perspective, and we say the refers to the cost incurred by the firm, refers to the cost incurred by the firm, refers to the cost incurred by the firm to obtain additional funds. To obtain additional funds. Now, i.e., what are those examples of the costs that a person, that a company incur to obtain additional funds? So, what are these examples of the costs incurred by the firm in order to incur additional funds? What are those costs of capital we're talking about? Number one, interest on loan. So if they decide to acquire a loan or to obtain loan from a bank, they shall pay interest on loan. So interest on loan is an example of a cost of capital. So any cost incurred by the firm. You can also talk about production cost. Production cost. We shall talk about this one later. What are the production costs and what is it? So production cost is also related by. It's also a cost which relates to the firm to acquire funds for operations. If the firm does not have enough money to do operation, and they end up obtaining additional loan, then that additional loan will be subject also to production cost. So, but a good example is the interest. So this one is the most common one, interest on loan. If a company takes a loan, they pay interest on that loan. So that interest is referred to as the cost of capital. Now you can also define this cost of capital. Another cost is dividends. Dividends paid to shareholders. Now, for example, the firm wants to acquire funds through equity. Let's assume now the firm wants to acquire funds through equity. Now, equity, remember, when we talk about equity, it is where the firm issues shares, either to the public or privately to obtain funds. Now, let us assume that the firm have issued what we call the public issue to obtain funds. To obtain funds, maybe through shares, mostly through shares. Now, so the company will advertise their shares. The company will advertise their shares to the public, so that the public will do what? So that the public will buy this share. So this will happen where the firm or the company will advertise their shares. Their shares to the public, and it will invite. So it will invite shareholders. So it will invite people to buy their shares. To buy their shares. So it will invite people to buy their shares. Now, those people who are invited to buy the shares of the company, they are called the shareholders. They are called the shareholders. Now, the shareholders, once they supply the money to the company in exchange of buying the shares from that company, in the future, these people will expect to be paid dividend. In future, these people will expect to be paid dividend. Now, this dividend that is going to be paid in future is also referred to as the cost of capital. The reason why, as much as the players are buying shares to the company, these shares that they are buying to the company will form part of ownership of the company. So the shareholders will become part of that company. And because they own the shares of this company, in the future, they expect that the company will pay dividend from those shares. So those shares that are shares, this part of shares that are expected to be paid in the future. So these shares that are held by the shareholders will attract what we call payment of dividend in the future. We attract what we call payment of dividends in the future. So that payment of dividend in the future is what we call cost of capital. So the company receive money from the shareholders, but the shareholders expect to be paid back that money. How will they be paid that money back? They'll be paid through dividends. So that dividends becomes the cost of capital. Now, another way you can define this one, another way you can define cost of capital is under, so you can use any definition. It's under business perspective. It's under owners perspective. Owners of capital perspective. Owners of capital perspective. How do you define it? Perspective. Perspective. So refers to the rate of return attributable. So refers the rate of return attributable to the providers of capital. The providers of capital, and you can say i.e. interest received by the banks. Interest received by banks from the loan issued, or the dividend payable to the shareholders or the owners, the shareholders or owners of capital. Now, when the company pays this interest to the bank, that one is the cost to the company, and that's why we are saying refer to the cost in card, because it is the company that is paying the cost to the company or to the bank, or it is the company that pays the dividend to the shareholders, and therefore the person paying it, which is the company. So the person which is paying the cost, which is the company, to them it is the cost of capital. Now, but the person receiving it, now remember the company is paying, but we also have the person who is receiving it, because the person receiving it are the owners of the capital, and they form part of company because they are the one who contributed the money to the company. Now, the person paying it, for them, it's a cost, but the person now receiving it is a return to them. So we are saying refers to the return of the rate of the return attributable to the providers of capital. Who are the providers of capital? For example, loan. Who provides the loan? The bank. Now, interest received by the bank from the loan issued, to them, it is not a cost. To them, it is a return. Reason why? Because they are receiving it from the company. So the person paying it, for them, it's a cost. But the person receiving it, it's a return. And therefore, we have two definition of the word cost of capital. So for under business perspective, it will be a cost. But under owners of capital perspective, it will be a return, as the rate of return, which is attributable to them, which is attributable to them. So we have those two definitions that you need to consider when defining the word cost of capital. That is what you need to know when defining the word cost of capital. I think that one you are okay with it. So make sure you know those two differences. So one of them, so cost of capital under business perspective represent the cost incurred to obtain funds. But under owner's perspective, cost of capital means the rate of return, which is attributable to the providers of capital. That one is okay. Let me look for, those are the two definitions which are applicable under that topic. We move on. Let me look for something. Where is it? There's something I'm looking for in my book. Where is it? In the picture. Okay, Nikitafutanga, we go to the next item. Component cost of capital. Component cost of capital. Components cost of capital. What are the components cost of capital? What are the components cost of capital? Components cost of capital. Okay, nimepata. Sawa sawa. So component cost of capital. Let's talk about the components. Kindly ukiingia una mute. Sometimes they also call the specific cost of capital. Cost of capital. So sometimes they also call the specific cost of capital. So you call them the component or the specific cost of capital. We start with defining what is the component cost of capital, and we say component cost of capital refers to the cost of the individual component source of finance. You can say refers to the individual component sources of finance. So when we talk about the component cost of capital, specifically refers to the individual component cost of capital. They include the following. So they include the following. We can start with the first one. Cost of equity. Number one, let's start with the cost of equity. Cost of equity, number one. Cost of equity. Now, cost of equity, we can give the example cost of equity. So examples of cost of equity. Just a moment. Just give me some few moments. Let me plug my stuff here. Just give me some minutes. Okay, so sorry for that. So cost of equity, They are classified into two. We say they are classified into two. Number one, we can talk about cost of retained earnings, cost of retained earnings, which is given by KR, and we can say KR is equals to DO 1 plus G over PO plus G, PO plus G, where DO 1 plus G represents D1. So D1 means expected dividend. DO represent paid dividends. So DO means D1, so equals our D1 refers to the expected dividends, okay. DO is the most recent paid dividend. You can say most recent paid dividend. You can say most recent paid dividend. Most recent paid dividends. Most recent paid dividend. G is the growth rate. G is the growth rate. Number two, and then KR and D. KR is the cost of retained earnings. So KR, we don't need to write it. Cost of retained earnings. Retained earnings. So that's number one of the equity. Number two, cost of ordinary share. Cost of ordinary shares, which is given by KE. Cost of ordinary shares, which is given by KE, and you can say KE is equals to DO 1 plus G over PO minus F plus G. So remember, you need to multiply it by 100. Remember, you're supposed to multiply it with 100. So times 100. Remember, you need to multiply it by 100. So times 100 times 100. So DO is the same. DO is the most recent paid dividend. DO 1 plus G is equals to D1, and the D1 means expected dividends. D1 means expected dividends. Expected dividends. Then PO is equal to Maweka. So we have PO also. Market price per share. Market price per share. Market price per share. So that one is the market price per share. That is number one. And number A, cost of equity. Number A, cost of equity. Number B can go to cost of preference shares. Allow me to wrap the upper part. Cost of preference shares. Number B, cost of preference shares. Number boy. Number B. Cost of preference shares. Shares given by KP. So KP means cost of the preference shares. So KP means cost of preference shares, and KP is equals to dividends over VP minus F times 100, or it can be interest depending on the equation. So this one depends with the equation over VP minus F times 100. VP minus F. Now hapa tumesahau kuambia hapa chini F means rotation cost. Means rotation cost. So F hapa chini inamaanisha rotation cost. Tumesahau kuambia that one. That F means rotation cost. So F means rotation cost. Now we can say VP, the value of preference shares, or the market price shares, or you can call it the market price of the. You can also call it the market price of the preference shares. So you can also call it the market price of preference shares, or market price of the preference shares. So that way, if you want to call it that way, shares. Now F means rotation cost. F means rotation cost. So F means rotation cost. Now, how do you get the dividends? This is how you compute the dividends. So it's very important, dividends. So for you to get the dividends, if the question deals with dividends, so if the question deals with dividends, now the dividends will be equal to the percentage of par value. Par value. Other people call them the nominal value. Nominal value. Now, if you are calculating interest, also it will be the same percentage of par value, or the nominal rate, the nominal value. So another name of the par value is the nominal value. So another name of the par value is the nominal value. So that's another name of par value is the nominal value. Now, what is the par value? Or what is this nominal value we are talking about? So par value, or the nominal value So what is this par value, or this nominal value that we are talking about? Now, the definition of the par value or the nominal value in a simple term, you can say refers to the value which existed before the market price. Which existed before the market price. So that value which existed before the market price is what we call the par value. How do you inakwanga wapi? Mostly it is obtained from the capital structure. From the structure. I'll show you capital later. It will be from the capital structure of a company. So underline the word capital structure for now. We come to data, but for you to obtain get it from the capture. For you to obtain this figure, so for you to obtain this figure, you shall get it from the capital structure. So for you to obtain this figure, you shall get it from the capital structure. So capital structure, we shall explain what is capital structure later. I don't need to explain it for now. Chukue muda. So let us introduce everything first. Then once we introduce everything, then we shall explain what is the capital structure. But for you to get the nominal value is always found in the capital structure. So the nominal value or the par value are always found in the capital structure. So we shall define what is capital structure and what's the difference between capital structure and financial structure. So later we shall see what's the difference between capital structure and financial structure. Let's go to number next. Number C, cost of debt or debentures. So number C, cost of debt of debentures. Yes, net loan. The cost of the debt and the cost of debenture does mean you can say it's classified into two. It is classified into two. Number A, talk of irredeemable. You can start with irredeemable debentures. And what are these irredeemable debentures? Now, an irredeemable debentures, this is a debenture that has no maturity period. So this is a debenture with no maturity period. We say this is a debenture with no maturity period. With no maturity period. In short, it cannot be redeemed. So in short, it means that it cannot be redeemed. So this one cannot be redeemed. Meaning, i.e., it cannot be bought back by the company. It cannot be bought back by the company or by the entity. Or the entity, if you want to use the word entity. It cannot be bought back by the company, or it cannot be redeemed. So, or it cannot be redeemed. So what do you mean it cannot be redeemed? It cannot be bought back by the entity. So KD, this is denoted by KD. KD means cost of debenture. So KD means the cost of debenture, and therefore it is equal to interest over VD. Then unatoa your tax. Then you remove your tax. And then you can also multiply by 100 to get the percentage. 1 minus 3 tax. Then what you get, you can multiply with 100 to get it in percentage. Now, interest. How do you get the interest? Is a percentage of the par value of the debenture. Pale andika hapa hivi juu. Let's go back to hapa juu kwa preference shares. So how to get the dividend is the percentage of the par value or the nominal value of the preference shares. So it's supposed to be of the preference shares, of preference shares, of the preference shares. The interest will be equal to the percentage of the par value or the nominal value of the preference shares. Now, hapa kwa debenture, for you to get the interest will be equal to the percentage of the par value of the debenture. T is the tax rate. T, call it tax rate. VD is the value of the debenture. Value of debenture. Value of debenture, or you can call it the market value of the debenture. You can also call it the market value of the debenture. So that is also okay. Now that is number A. Number B. Now let's look at the redeemable. The redeemable debenture. The redeemable debenture. So what about the redeemable debenture? So these are the debentures which the period. This is a debenture with a maturity period. This is a debenture. This is a debenture with a maturity period. With a maturity period. So the debenture with a maturity period is what we call the. How do you get it? KD. KD because of debenture. How do you get that one for that one? So it will be equal to interest. Plus the bracket MV minus VD over N. Then everything unachukua MV plus VD divided by 2. Then you multiply with the tax 1 minus T. Then what you get, you multiply by 100. That's one way you can do it. So interest plus, so the interest is the same. How do you get the interest? The interest is equal to the percentage of the par value. So for you to get the interest, remember the interest is given by the percentage of the par value of that debenture. MV in the market value. So MV, calculate, not the maturity value. So MV is the maturity value. MV, the maturity value. Maturity value, or we call it the par value. So the value which existed before the market price. So we call it the maturity period, the par value. So the maturity value, VD, the value of the debenture. Value of the debenture. Remember, this is the maturity value of debenture. Remember, that is the maturity value of the debenture. Then VD, the value of the debenture, N maturity period, N point maturity period. Yeah, T taxes. I'm a tax rate. T is the tax rate. T is the tax rate. I think that one is okay. That one is number C. Yeah. NB. In case of a loan, which is KL. Remember KL is a debt. Remember hapa tuko na debenture na tuko na debt. Now a debt forms a loan. You can also just put it at C. You can also just put it C. So loan Now this one is without flotation cost. Let's say without flotation cost, without flotation cost. So without flotation cost, so how do we get it? So KL will be equal to I interest 1 minus tax. That's how you find it. Interest 1 minus tax. Now the interest is in percentage. So you need to remember that the interest here is in percentage. So you need to say that you need to know that the interest is in percentage. Interest is in percentage. So the interest is in percentage. So you need to know that the interest is in percentage. And then T is the tax rate. So T is the tax rate. The T is the tax rate. Okay. Now we can also give in case of a loan where would we have production cost. So in case of a loan where we have production cost, in case of a loan where we have production cost, so in case of a loan where we have production cost, so this one is number D. In case of a loan where we have flotation cost, now what would be the value of loan? What would be the value of the loan in case we have flotation cost? Someone to tell us. Now, in case we have a production cost, then where is it? This will be the value of the loan. The loan will be given as follows. KL will be equal to interest 1 minus T, interest 1 minus T over VL minus rotation cost minus F. Let me just put F minus F. Then you can multiply by 100 to get it in percentage. So VL, value of the loan. Value of loan. F equals to flotation cost. Flotation cost. F means flotation cost. Those are some of the components of cost of capital that you need to know in case a question requires you to compute them. So in case a question wants you to compute them, that is how you compute them. So let us see some of the significance of cost of capital. Significance of cost of capital. Significance of cost of capital. So significance of cost of capital. The significance of cost of capital. significance of cost of capital. Number one. Now, what do you think is the importance of this cost of capital? Number one, it assists investment decision. So it assists in investment decisions. Now, it assists in investment stroke capital budgeting decision. Capital budgeting decisions. So they assist in investment and capital budgeting decision. So how do they help capital budgeting? You can say the cost of capital is used. So the cost of capital is used as a discounting rate. Is used as a discounting rate. So the cost of capital is used as a discounting rate in appraising investments using NPV. So the cost of capital is used as a discounting rate in appraising investments using NPV as an example. So that rate is usually the cost of capital. So the discounting rate that is used to appraise or to, you can use the word appraise, or with those which are used to determine the viability. The cost of capital is used as a discounting rate to determine the viability of a project. You can also say cost of capital is used as a discounting rate in determining viability of projects using methods such as NPV. Using methods such as NPV. That one is correct. That one is correct. So Cynthia Mwende, tafadhali naomba mute. Same to Zach. Naomba mute. Zach. Sawa. Number two. So ukumbuke tu, it is the cost of capital is used as a discounting rate when discounting projects. So it is used as a discounting rate when discounting projects or when determining viability. This is supposed to be viability. When determining viability. When determining viability of the project. Viability kama inaonekana vizuri. Supposed to be viability. Viability of the project. Number two, it assists in valuation of securities. It assists in valuation of securities. And how does it avoid it? How does it assist? You can say the cost of capital. The cost of capital is used as discounting rate. It is discounting rate in determining in determining present value of future dividends in order to determine the market price. In order to determine the market price. The market price of the share or the security of the share or the security of the share or the security. So tunasema the cost of capital is used as a discounting rate in determining or you can say in determining or discounting So the word discounting means, we'll talk about it later, but the word discounting means the process of converting future cash flows to present value. So the word discounting means the process of converting future cash flows to present values. So that's why the discounting rate or this cost of capital is the one which is used to convert the future value to present value. Now, when we convert the future values of dividends to present value, the present value of those future dividends, when they are aggregated together, will form the market price of that share. That's what we are saying. The cost of capital is used as a discounting rate in determining or discounting or discounting the present value of the future dividends in order to determine the market price of the share today. So today. Now, don't worry about those items tunazifanya. I will show you how to determine the price of the shares from the cost of equity to present value. That one tutaifanya baadaye. For now, we just use the theory. Next, it assists in evaluation of performance. It assists in evaluation of performance. Evaluation of performance. How does it help in evaluation of performance? How does it assist in evaluation of performance? Now, this cost of capital can be compared with the rate of return to determine or to evaluate performance. So the cost of capital can be compared with the actual return to determine the actual performance. So we can say actual return can be compared with cost of capital with the cost of capital to determine the performance of the entity. 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 Now, for example, i.e., if actual return is more. So if actual return is more than cost of capital, it can be an indication. It can be an indication of a good performance. So it can be an indication. Of good performance. That's how we are saying it is used to compare performance. Number 4, it assists in sourcing different sources of capital. Sources of capital. Now, this cost of capital will assist the company to decide which source of finance they will accept. Now, the one which is most expensive, they will tend to ignore. So we can say by analyzing different cost of capital associated with different sources of finance, company can select the most cheap form of finance, the most cheapest source of finance to use in order to obtain more funds. In order to obtain more funds. So iko sawa. So tunasema it assists in sourcing. So hapa nafai kwa it assists in sourcing. So it's supposed to be sourcing. It assists in sourcing different sources. Supposed to be different. It assists in sourcing different sources of capital. So it assists in sourcing different sources of capital. That's what mostly in terms of cost. So the company will analyze different sources of capital so as to use that form of capital that it is not expensive, which is the one that is not expensive. So comparing now, for example, if the company want to acquire funds through equity and maybe through loan, now between loan and equity, which one has the cheapest or which one has the lowest cost of capital? So the one with the most lowest cost of capital is the one the company will choose. And how do they know that? By comparing the cost of capital. Number 5 and the last one. Number 5 and the last one, we can say I think that one is all about it. That one is all about it. That's all about it. So we have only 4. You can go and look for others. But in my book, I only have 4. Let me see if I have another one. Just a moment. Let me open this other book. Let me see what they're saying. But those are enough. So in an exam, they can tell you to explain. So you explain 8 of those. So you can. So if it is 5 marks, now you explain. You just give 2 or 3, and you explain. Let me see what they're saying in this other book. We have it. Yes, they are only 4. That's the year. Now let us go to another subheading. And the subheading is about work and WMCC. So work and WMCC. So work and WMCC. So what's the difference between work and WMCC? So that's our next jump. So today nataka leo tumalize theory. Kesho tukipatana tufanye mahesabu. Tukipatana tukuje tufanye hesabu. So I'm saying we want to differentiate between work. So we have work. Work and WMCC. So work and the WMCC. We can start with the first one, or we can just give the definition of both of the two items. Mara moja tukisonga, because we don't have a lot of time. So we can start with the weighted average cost of capital. Start with the first one. Weighted average cost of capital. Bracket work. So what is the weighted average cost of capital? Weighted average cost of capital, we say this is the overall cost of existing funds of a company. This is the overall cost. This is the overall cost of the existing funds. Of the existing funds of a company. Of a company or an entity. Now underline the word existing. Underline the word existing. The cost of existing. Underline the word the cost of existing. So underline the word the cost of existing. So when we talk about the weighted average cost of capital work, we mean that this is the overall cost of the existing funds of an entity. It's also called the composite cost of capital. We say it is also called the composite. It's also called the composite cost of capital. It's also called the composite cost of capital. It's also called the composite cost of capital. How do you compute it? It is applied as follows. It is applied as follows. So work, it's applied as follows. Go to the other side. So work. So how do we find work? To be the weight of E, KE, and then weight of P, KP, plus weight of D, KD, 1 minus T. Where, you can see where, number 1, WE, weight of equity. Weight of equity. Weight of equity. KE, cost of equity. Cost of equity. WP, the weight of preference shares, preference shares, KP, the cost of preference shares, KD, weight of debentures, and then and not supposed to be WD. Then KD is the cost of the venture. The cost of the venture, what T is tax rate. The tax rate. So that is the general formula for you to get work. So work is equal to WE times KE plus WP times KP plus WD times KD plus T. Those steps we can give the steps used, but in an exam we don't use the steps. Exam don't use the steps, but I'm just giving you the steps for the purpose just for class. But in an exam, because of time, just do whatever you can do. Because of class purposes, let me just give this. In calculating work. What are some of the steps used in calculating work? Some of the steps used in computing work. So some of the steps used in computing work, number one, just a moment. I don't know if my net is mbaya or what is it. Is it my net or what is the case? Can you people see the screen well? So steps used in work. Number one, we can talk about, let me see those steps. So step number one, which we can use in computing work. Number one, we can talk about number one, compute the specific cost of capital. Number one, compute the specific cost of capital. Number one, compute the specific cost of capital, and you know how to compute them. Nimeshawaonyesha. Number one, compute the specific cost of capital. Now, once you compute the specific cost of capital, for example, you can compute KD, KE, KP, and so on. So compute the specific cost of capital. Number two, determine the market capitalization. Determine the market capitalization. The market capitalization. So you're done with the market cap. So how do you get the market cap? Market cap. Now, market cap is equals to what? What is the formula of the market cap? So the formula for the market cap is supposed to be existing number of shares times the market price. Existing number of shares you multiply with the market price per share. Price per share. with the market price per share. That's step number 2. And then how do you get the existing number of shares? Yes. 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 Then is equal to the value of the market value. So nilikuwa nime left. So tunasema this one is the desired fund. See the desired fund. We call it the desired fund. Let's just call it desired fund. Desired fund. By the power value. The desired fund. The power value. Step number 3 that we can use of the market cap. The weight. So number 3, determine the weight of the debit. Determine the weight of each source. 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 You know, determine the weight of each source from the market cap. So determine you determine the weight from the market cap. So you determine the weights from the market cap. So in most cases, you determine the weight from the market cap. Determine the weight from the market cap. Don't know why my net inanisumbua hivyo. For now, sijui sideni kwaje kwenyu inaonekana. Is it visible on your side? Yes. Tunasema determine the weight of which source. How do you determine the weight? Now the weight of which source is determined from the market cap. So I will show you how you can determine from the market cap. Number 4, once you determine the weight, now you can determine the weightage. So I'm sure you determine work. So that's the last step. You determine work. That is the last step. You determine the work. Determine work. Now that is all about the work with the weighted average cost of capital. Now we can go to the next one. The weighted marginal cost of capital. Weighted marginal cost of capital. Weighted marginal cost of capital. So I want to give the theories today so that kutana kesho we are meeting for revision purpose. So nimevuta sijui kama mko umeandika. I don't know if mko umeandika. And I shall check on the video later. Nimevuta mapema. But it's okay. So let's go to the number 2. Weighted marginal cost of capital. Weighted marginal cost of capital. Weighted marginal cost of capital. We say weighted. Weighted marginal. Inakata kuandika. What is the issue? So weighted marginal marginal cost of capital. That is the WMCC. That's the WMCC. Let's define it. Let us define it together. Right, that's the person you mute tafadhali. Steve. So let's define what is this one. Now we talk about the weighted marginal cost of capital. We say refers to the overall cost of capital. It refers to the overall cost of the new funds. So it refers to the overall cost. The overall cost refers to the overall cost of the new funds. Of the new funds. The new entity of an entity. Underline the word new, cost of new funds. Underline the word cost of new funds. So remember one, when we talk about work, we say it refers to the overall cost of the existing. So when we talk about work means the cost of the refer to the overall cost of the existing. Now when we talk about the marginal, the weighted marginal cost of capital, we are talking about the overall cost of the new funds. So the keyword here is the word the new funds. So it must have the word new. For work, this one, WACC, we saw it is the overall cost of the existing. So the keyword is the word existing funds. But when we talk about the marginal cost of capital, talk about the marginal cost of capital, refers to the cost of the new funds of an entity to be raised. So it must be raised. So that's another key word you need to know, that it must be raised by the entity. Now, difference. Let's see. Okay, before we go to the difference decision criteria, let's look at the decision criteria. Nataka niandikie hapa decisions criteria. Decision criteria, we can say number one, if work so IRR accept the project. So we accept the project. IRR in this case means internal rate of return. So IRR tutafanya baadaye, but in this case just know refers to the internal rate of return. Internal rate of return refers to the internal rate of return. So IRR means internal rate of return. We shall do this one. We will be talking about the capital budgeting. For now, just know IRR means internal rate of return. Now, if work or the WMCC is less than IRR, we reject. We reject the project. We reject the project. And then ya mwisho, if work of WMCC is equal to IRR, then it is a point of indifference. Point of indifference meaning no valid decision. No valid decisions. No valid decisions. No valid decisions. No valid decisions. After that, tunaelewana. Now, let us see some of the differences between work and MCC. Work and MCC. Then you want to see the differences. That me a table. Okay, table. So hii side ikuwe ni work. Side ikuwe ni work. The other side ikuwe ni WMCC. So let us start with the first differences. Number one, you can say it is the cost of existing funds. It is the cost of existing funds. Number two, it is the cost of new funds. It is the cost of new funds to be raised. Number two, it is used as a discounting rate to discount new project, to discount existing project. So it is used as a discounting rate to discount the existing project. The other side, it is used as discounting rate. It is used as a discounting rate. A discounting rate to discount new project. New projects. Number three, it does not consider production cost. It does not consider production cost. But number three, we say it considers production cost. Considers production cost. Number four, what's another difference? It does not consider the cost of retained earnings. It does not consider cost of retained earnings. Number four, it considers cost of retained earnings. Let us give the work WMCC, not WMC, as an weight of R, KE, weight of E, KP, weight of P, and maybe you can say KD, weight of D, 1 minus T. 1 minus T. 1 minus T. Now that's the difference. Ukiangalia na work, let us move right for work. Kwa tumeandika pale juu, we said work is KE, weight of E, KP, weight of P, KD, weight of D, 1 minus T. Now, the only difference is this one. The only difference is this item. Now we are saying, for work, it does not consider the cost of retained earnings. So ukiangalia kwa work, our work haina the cost of returns. So our work does not have the cost of retained earnings. But when we go to WMCC, it considers the cost of retained earnings. Na ukiangalia kwa hii formula yetu hapa, it has the cost of retained earnings. So that's how you differentiate between WMCC and work in terms of calculation. But in terms of theory, the rest are applicable. So that all marks the end of class today. Now, when we meet tomorrow, we are meeting to do questions. So tomorrow, when we meet, or maybe not tomorrow, we can meet on Saturday during the day. You kama your availability, nitauliza kwa group your availability on the weekend, Saturday, so that we can do some question in intermediate level and some question in advanced level. Tunataka tufanye maswali za because they are applicable in both intermediate and advanced. So tutafanya maswali za intermediate. Then we shall select some items, some questions in advanced level. So in that level, it's because of the breakpoint analysis. The breakpoint. This breakpoint is important. So this breakpoint is important. Reason why? Because some question in intermediate has the breakpoint analysis, but most of the question in advanced contains the breakpoint analysis, and that one is under WMCC. That one is under WMCC. So we shall do all the questions for work in WMCC for both the intermediate and advanced level on Saturday, and that will be the end of our topic once we do those questions. So for now, I want to wish you a good night. Tomorrow we shall not have any class. Tomorrow we shall not have any class during the evening. Tomorrow is on Friday, I think. So we shall meet on Saturday during the day. So thank you very much for your time. So we meet on Saturday morning from 9.